Adrian, the unconventionalist. Very strange day. Very placid and maybe possibly too normal. Normal meaning that, I don't know, I'm just tired of normal. It isn't necessarily the normal life that I live because I live anything but normal, but the normalities, I guess, around me. I come from a space of type 2 diabetes where I try to help others do what I have done, which is completely put it in remission. And I guess it's an odd thing to put yourself out in the world for all eyes to see, for anybody to find out if there's any takers, and only to find that very many people at all really do anything about their life situations. But I think it comes a time for us to grow as individuals, those of us who are seekers, the seeker-seers. I kind of like that, the seeker-seers, where we can see beyond the veils, we can see beyond the profanity of the populations, because that's kind of what it is. It's just this big, giant, meaningless commercial, and I think it's pretty evident. A lot of us are just getting tired and bored of it. I know I am. But the answer is clear, I think, for us to mature and grow into our own spirituality and our own, I think, our human nature. I think we've lost touch with our human nature, and that's what I intend for myself every single day, working towards to get back to being the true animal that I was born into this world. We're all animals pretending that we're not animals. We all have these instincts and these feelings, but it's become to a point where we don't even know what to eat anymore, how much to eat. We don't know when we're full. We've had such abundance. And I think the more and more we, at least for myself, I guess, the more and more I wrap myself, I try to fit myself into this, see it and experience it, the further and further I get from the natural me. I think the answer for true health, for myself, for the planet, is for us to go back to places where we've been before. When it comes to type 2 diabetes, I guess I bought an apple at the store, and it's labeled with a number 9 or a number 4. That's the first number I believe you're looking for. And if it has a number 4, you're supposed to be able to eat it. Well, I got one. I think it's vice versa. I can't remember which one. I have it down on my notes. But if you scrape this apple, you can literally get this white filament, which is like some sort of waxy coating. It could be waxes. That's what they've done to make food look good. But you can literally light it on fire. So people are saying, even if it's organic, make sure you get it. That starts with a 9 or a 4. Like I said, I can't remember. And I want to live a life where I don't have to read a label on something. There's no barcode. I don't need to worry about scraping some sort of appeal from Billy Bob. Billy Boy over here, Billy G. Gates. And I had this thought I've been ruminating for a while of meaningfulness. And a lot of us know that we need to go back to nature. We want to go back to nature. We want to be our natural selves. But it doesn't seem like my hypothesis is that you're never at one with nature until you actually live in nature. What nature does affects you. What you do affects nature. It's a symbiosis. And that's where I look at as sort of living back to the land kind of movement, which I think is going to start hitting pretty soon. When you start becoming a producer of your life instead of a consumer, and not having to worry about a number 9 or a number 4, that's when you start to get in touch. That's when the rain comes, that's when you get your water to drink. cool little tip, I've heard this but I haven't experienced it myself, is that women claim that rainwater will actually double the mass in their hair. I don't know if it's from the nitrogen pulled from the atmosphere, but I think a lot of ailments like type 2 diabetes and things like that would change. I think back in the old days, it was about feasting, and food is a celebration. It should be a celebration, but your food should be your medicine should be your food. But I think that we've been so intoxicated with all of the social media and just the movies and just everything about our lifestyles, especially in the big city where most of us live. But I'll bet you in the old days, it was more about the ceremony, the celebrations. It was about the dancing and the singing and the storytelling. It wasn't necessarily like the big eye of the party was the food. You know, if you ever notice, we're going to have a get together. Let's meet up for lunch. Everything has to be meet up, evolving around food or drinks. And I'll bet you in the old days, it was a certain amount was food, but it wasn't the main topic of the conversation. It was about the stories that you would hear. And that would consume a lot of our time. You see, I think we've become so numb to things and so saturated that there's a void inside of us that we all can't fill up. And food fills that void. The drink fills that void, only momentarily. You ever wonder how very few could take the awkwardness of silence? Every point has to be filled with something. Nobody could just sit quiet. And I think living alone for so long, I've become to myself so much that I could hear and feel myself. And sometimes it could be just the perspective of you're seeing what you believe, right? It's the goggles that you wear of what you're perceiving. The belief systems that you have in your head is what you're going to perceive. There's pictures of something, they can show you where it's like you either see a monkey or a tree or, it's up to the perception. But I think that the more and more we stay away from our animalistic, natural environment, the sadder and sadder we get. And it's a weird sadness because it's an invisible sadness. That's what I see in most people. Very few have that light in their eyes. It seems like very few people have the hope. And I'm hoping that these conversations aren't so dismal like they are. I've just been going through a weird mood lately. Like I said, it's very difficult when you're in a position like myself where you have done things like, when you've put something like diabetes in check and then you want to help others and you can't find receivers. It's really bombarded me. I have another channel called the BC Gardening Guy, and I invented a system using a series of burlap and wires to where it's a completely biodegradable container gardening system where I can pretty much prove how we can rebuild soil and save the world. And I gave it my shot on old Instagram. At one point I had about 33,000 followers, but not very many takers on anything. Nobody really wanted to support. And it was just a strange thing to work so hard and to have such vision, to see things. Sometimes I believe that others can't see. I think they're just too far asleep. But you can see a light at the end of the tunnel. You can see things that we could be a better preoccupation of our time instead of worrying about war, space travel, and science and things like that. I mean, if we lock down the human part, if we have an equal marriage of animal and human and nature and technology and understanding, so that we're not sick in our minds and in our souls, You know, the topics of conversations just for someone like me is deathful. I can't take it. I live in a world that's unconventional. It's not of this world. And I spoke before about the last life lived. But it's very, at times I can say probably painful to be awake, to be able to see things, and not just be awake, like woke. Woke to me, I was really excited about it because I was like, whoa, because woke to me is my interpretation is that you've awakened and you're starting to see things for what they are, you know, like the balance of nature and stuff, and how we've lost our way. And why is it, you know, when we need to decompress, most of us go out to the wilderness, we go camping and things. That's why it's so popular. Being out in the wilderness does something to you. It's motivated many poets and musicians and artists of the like. And yet it's something that we've made into an obscenity. Nature's now become an obscenity. We want to square off everything and block it out. But it's the very thing that frees us. I don't know, my mind swims everywhere. I promise this channel ain't going to be as well, I guess it needs to go with the emotional feelings. I can't lie. So it needs to go with the mood I'm in. And one of the things I would really love to do is go live and hear what you guys have to say about these kind of subject matters. If you are here and you've been following along, share the channel and subscribe only to people you think that would want to have these type of conversations, because it's kind of like the space of type 2 diabetes. Once you're in a holistic approach and you've actually done it, you're kind of isolated. And I see this isolation widening. There's a big gap between us who have actualized our lives, who are intentionally seeing, you know, the seeker-seers. I don't know. I think there's power in numbers, even if it is bouncing off ideas. I think one of the most powerful things that we can do in the world right now would be to collectively become units to where, you know, I spoke about the belief systems in the goggles. What you're seeing, you're perceiving, projecting on someone or something of what's going on in your own thoughts. Well, it's very fascinating to me that everybody sees things differently. And the more and more we would combine our efforts, the more and more we can solve certain problems. Like for me, it's regenerating the earth, being able to grow my own food, live naturally, live healthy, happy, you know, and ways to do that. It's not necessarily just give up, you know, all possessions and money and things like that. That's not the root cause. I'm not saying that it's not the cause. It does keep us a little bit in the loop here, but there are ways to do it. There are ways. I constantly fight and think and imagine and create and seek for my freedom, to utilize everything that I can to solve these problems. And I got a hell of a lot to share. I was talking to somebody earlier today, and, you know, one of the things people would say is, show me the money. And it's not necessarily the money, it's show me your accomplishments. So I've proved that with type 2 diabetes, that I just pretty much spanked it on its ass. I've proved that with my gardening system. One guy can produce a shit ton of food with simple automations, that are just natural and completely simple. There's no robots or crazy shit like that. Hell, the only electricity involved is 2 AA batteries on a little water timer. That's it. But it's amazing the time that we live in, especially being able to utilize things like AI and chats with people, with real thoughts, with real innovations. And that excites the fuck out of me. That really burns. That sets my rocket ship on fire. It is an odd time. Today, by the way, is the first week of 2026. I don't know what date it is. I've been working so much, I just one day blends into the other. But this seems like a time of almost hibernation. I don't know if it's because it's been raining. I'm in Southern California at the present right now, and it's just been raining and overcast, and it always seems like that's kind of gets you in a hot soup. Let's light a fire, you know, as where the sun's shining, and I'm like, man, let's go outdoors and do stuff. I don't know. I got a lot of cool shit to share. I think I want to talk about in the next one, if I remember here. What exactly is the plan? Like, what would be an Exodus plan? And that's pretty much what I work on 24/7. Those are the conversations that I want. Let's get the fuck out of the rat race. Not momentarily, not for a weekend, not for 2 weeks, not for a year, for life. Let's get off this carousel, this psycho circus fucking strangeness. Yeah, let's get back. That's all I have to say, guys. Let's go live. Help me get to 50 subscribers so we can go live. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say.